Hello, my friends. Welcome to the show. My name's Rocky Outcrop. We're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin in just a second here. As you can see, I've got the Nightbot website up behind me. I've been trying to get Nightbot integrated with the channel. Doesn't seem like it's cooperating, but we've come this far without it. I'm sure we'll survive another day, and I'll try and come back and see if I can get this working somehow. It'd be cool if it did. So anyway, here we are, and you can see the current prices are 19,189. If I just jump on over to this chart that we had on the other day in the streams last week, we can see the fulfillment of the lines that we talked about, which is lovely to see. We just bring up the chart full screen. Then we talked about several places where you could be taking profit at, and the orange lines showing kind of pivots there in the market, and of course then the green line up above remains in place up there at 19,887. Have I got this wrong? I've done it wrong again, haven't I? I have to jump over to the home scene. Whoopsie doopsie. Okay, cool. So yeah, I've got overbought on this last stream. What's that? Yeah, I'm going to have to try and get the bot thing figured out. If anybody knows about how to run these bot things, then get in touch with me and let me know what to do if I'm doing something wrong. Right, yes, fix that screen covering thing. Okay, so here we are. You can see the lines up behind me there that I was talking about before, and that is what we were talking about last week, and we've managed to come up so far to this blue line at this profit taking line, and we can see that we're so far experiencing a degree of resistance, if you like, here at this area, having wicked up twice above it and then come back down below it so far with this green doji day right in here right now. And that really is going to boil down to the essence of what we're going to be talking about in this video, looking at the price action as we see it flick from green to red in the background. What kind of day are we looking at here? What kind of day are we looking at? So we had this weekend just there now. Maybe there's a couple of things that happened over the weekend that we could analyze in a bit more detail to see how we've come into the start of this week. And it's a contrasting story yet again, because we can see that we had this positive momentum in the weekend going towards the top side. Jumping over to the CME charts, you can see that, of course, everything leading into where we find ourselves now has been negative, with this then gappy candle up above with the big space in between here on the chart. I'll just take off the Bollinger Bands and the EMAs and everything so you can see obviously the sort of the contrast here. So we're still waiting to see how this kind of pans out with regards to the price action, and overall the most bullish aspect of everything at the minute is the fact that we are in an uptrend. Oh, look at that, check it out. Nightbot has decided to actually turn up there in the chat. Quality, sweet, there we go. So if you want to see what the commands are for Nightbot that I've set up so far, then you'll see that that there's not very many, but you can send me suggestions here in the chat and everything else. That's quite cool. It said hi to you there, Zoner, as well. So if anybody types in hi or hey or whatever, then you'll get a wee message there back to you from Nightbot. You know, I wanted to set up community first when it came to what I was thinking with ideas for that thing. So there's this gap over here, and we've got to wonder, are we going to fill this gap in at some point or not? And of course, as well, there's other areas that remain of concern or note, I suppose you could say, in terms of gaps and what have you over here on the 4-hour chart as well. It would actually take us down as far as the 17,000 area to fill in that gap, 16,990 there on CMEs. And obviously then if you were looking down the way then with regards to the futures premium staying intact, then you'd be looking at lower prices, I suppose, on spot if that were to be the case. We also have this gap here in terms of the, not a gap, but the drop off on the VPVR that's worth taking note of, and looking down towards where we find the gap there previously. And of course, if we were to go down and fill this one in, then there's that big drop off there as well down below. You've got danger territory coming in here, and that's quite obvious really, because that's where the previous low was, and that's our danger territory in terms of market structure. And what I wanted to do in today's episode was to try and keep things nice and simple for everybody, so that if I do make any sort of little clips out of this one, that they will be very much beginner friendly and helpful to people. So, but you know me, I also actually wanted to try and keep today's one a short one as well. So we'll see if either of those goals work out. Highly doubt it. And by the way, hello 3000 Trin, hello Tradespotting, hello Zoner, hello Peter, hello K-Doc. It's good to have you all here with me, by the way. I really do appreciate it all turning up. If you hit that like button, that would be appreciated. And by the way, if you do want to get a shout out for hitting like, what you can do is go !like, oops, and you can actually type it into the chat thing, do ! liked, and then it should come back and say that you liked it to me, I think. Is that going to happen? Well, anyway, then Nightbot will come up and I'll get, I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but look, hey Rocky Outcrop, hit the like button, say thanks, Rocky, there you go. In fact, I haven't actually done that on this stream, so I'll have to make sure I do that after I finish talking. I'm going to keep things nice and simple today and try and keep things nice and brief as well, right? So this is the chart that we were looking at over the weekend. Let me just revisit the chat that we had before we went into the weekend. Where is she? Where is it? The 24-hour time frame. Where's my notes? Up here. I wrote them nice and big so that nobody would miss it. We were looking at the weekend and saying, will we get some of that weekend relief for any potential people, for any potential longs that went underwater throughout the previous 5 days? Looking into the weekend, could that possibly happen? And what would be the positives for it? And we had this list of things written out in huge text. And then we saw the sort of that all of them really more or less happened, which is handy. And that took us into coming into all of these relevant areas. Then this is the 24-hour chart, and you can see just, you know, we found our support at these areas, moved towards the top side. When we went through this orange line, obviously we flew on up the way. And what we're looking at overall, if we kind of hide all the drawings again, is asking a question about how we're going to structure and around about this zone really overall. If we want to kind of use what do we want to use to do this, because I know it's going to be difficult to see with all the drawings that we've already got on there. For just this idea anyway, where you could obviously have this sort of ascending triangle type notion on the go, the ocean messing with the notion of your potion messing with the ocean over here. And if we did see something like this happen, are we going to find that the prices revert back down the way and we come back in it again at these profit taking targets in the sub 18k area? And that's going to be our two main real targets to look at overall in the next wee while looking forward. So let's just write them out then, just to try and keep things nice and simple. And the basis for coming up with these ideas is simple, really, that we have the horizontal lines that we marked out, and you can see all why we did that, I think, on Friday's episode, right? Or was it Thursday that we talked about it? Maybe it was Thursday. I think it was Thursday that we put this on in the live stream. And real simple stuff, really. And then yeah, whatever. So we'll write those numbers in there. We have the important numbers to be aware of right now are 19,200, we'll call it 220, where we are now. Ish, right? More or less in that area. Then above us, we have 19,886. You know, breaking, well, I'll just call it 19,900, shall we? Breaking this is very bullish, okay? And then we have down below us 18k as being important, but not the end of the world as we know it. Then we have, what's the next number? So that was 18,066 was the last one I was putting in, just rounded it off. 17,800, we'll call that one. 17,800. Of course, you know, things start to look bad here. But the real key for us, if they were to look towards the downside, comes in hidden behind all of that chat here and at these areas. We know 17,100 where we had our previous lows, and then 16,200, and that's the when things start to look like it actually is the end of the world. So we'll go, what's this, 17, what did I say it was there, 17,100 or so, 17,100. What should we say here is like his start praying. And then down there at the next level where we have the red line is 16,166, and we can say here it starts with an earthquake. Birds, a plane, was an aeroplane? Lenny, Bruce, is not afraid. 10 points to whoever knows what song I'm talking about there, obviously. So that's the key numbers for us over the next wee while. Trying to keep things nice and simple. And what we're going to do now essentially is go down towards the small time frames, and I'll chill it with everybody in the chat and everything else, see how you're all doing, how you're all getting on, and go through the other coins and then try and wrap things up in a similarly simple way, because I don't want to overwhelm anybody. Now the thing is, like, if you are watching along with this and you're like, yeah, great, nice one, some nice and straightforward technical analysis with targets written out there in big numbers, that's cool. That's what I'll be doing by Monday. And the idea that I'm having at the minute is that I'll try and make it more complicated throughout the week, so that the idea being that, you know, you can just keep learning, really, essentially. Hopefully, if we do it along those lines. So there'll be no great mentions of like things like the RSI and divergence and whatever else and on all that right now. Nothing too deep on any of that, but we'll look at it from time to time because, you know, it's just kind of what I do. But I'll stick that off to this side, and that's our current chat. That's maybe a wee bit big, isn't it? The old price targets, but how can I fit this on here by sticking it off to the left? Yeah, that's the only option really that we have right now. Oh, of course, I'm covering up the price again. Well, still all of it fitted on screen, good enough. Whatever. I was just talking about horizontal lines there, so let me just actually make this fit properly. Dear. By the way, I also, you might notice that there's a spanner beside the name TradeSpotting there. Thank you so much, TradeSpotting, for being a moderator on the channel. You can, kill anybody that you want to. Yes, nice one. You've got it, by the way, as well, with the song. Nice one, Peter. Nice one, Jamie. Ascending triangle in the making, or bull trap? Well, yeah, okay, let's not get too complicated. I'll make all this text a little bit smaller so it fits on a bit better. Okay, stick it off to the sides there again. Yeah, is this an ascending triangle or what? Well, it doesn't look very good for one at the minute, you know, with this key line here coming in. You really need to break, you need to break the profit taking line and move up towards this green line to really kind of get that shape on the go, if you want to not call this kind of erroneous over there at the all-time high tops. If you're actually wanting to test these areas, I think that's the significant one. Of course, we're coming in here at the sort of the second high on the way up to the highs high thing, and that's good to see. But we're not quite there. A bull trap, well, what would a bull trap really look like in any of these areas? Maybe a bull trap would be visible to us in terms of like some sort of tweezer top or something like that. Don't really have that currently on the go. We're just putting in a doji here at a level where we were happy in advance to take profit at should we see things come up here, and that's what they've done. So we kind of really need to sort of chillax a little bit on that one. Maybe we could look down to a 4-hour time frame, and that there are things as well to be talking about, like the hidden bearish divergence and all the rest of it we talked about last week. If we all believe really, really hard, we might move the candles to 22k. Well, K-Doc tried that on Friday. It didn't work. We put in a lot of belief there for the whole 24k. We did have a nice bit of a rally, though, and I suppose that's, we'll not be too greedy on it. Daily, we did say hidden bullish divergence there if you're looking between these two lows on, say, for example, the MACD here. But, of course, it's on all of them, really. Other little things you could say is that we're not in the oversold or overbought territory, okay, trying to keep things simple. We have a cross here in the DMI, and that's a negative cross. No, it's a positive cross. We got a positive cross here in the DMI. Yeah, cool, nice one, which all fits in together with the whole overall structure of the market of higher lows, lower highs, trending upwards, etc. The key question comes into, are we actually going to be putting in lower highs or higher lows in here? And the most complicated that we'll get in terms of the technical analysis from a broad point of view is that if we don't do that sort of a thing, then we could be looking at any sort of consolidation type affair on the go, okay? Whether that happens to be some sort of ascending triangle or whatever you want, right? There's plenty of different consolidation type aspects of what things you could, different ways of looking at things. We're not needing to stick a tail on the donkey with that one. Just you could be looking at anything like this with failure to take out either of these two targets, really, with those that we've written up there up above anyway. So if you're looking for a pattern basis for your trades, then there's one. Obviously, low risk trades come in when you're looking at these areas in terms of simple things. Like you could even take a low risk short right here, even though we're obviously presenting this from the overall view of being kind of bullish on things. If you were looking towards whether or not we would actually manage to break or fake out of this sort of a thing and get an easy 5-to-1 if you were to, be very sort of tight on your management of your trades in around those areas. And why not? That'd be fair enough to do. And position that any way you want, because I'm not a financial advisor, and that wasn't financial advice, and that wasn't me telling you how to trade or any of that sort of thing. But you could be looking at that. Of course, the move coming in here with this rejection at the bottom here would have been a nice one to have taken on in around any of these times, at any of these levels towards the top side. Let's take a look then down the way at the 4-hour time frame and see how we managed to come to where we've come to so far. And there's cases to be made in terms of like patterns playing out here with regards to inverted Adam and Eve type structure, a W pattern, any sort of jazz in around this section here that you want to call it. Really, if we just take up the oscillators down below, you can see we had this bullish divergence coming in here into the weekend, and we managed to put in what is obviously now quite a tasty gap on the CMEs, and we're waiting to see how things pan out in it around about our profit taking areas on either of these sides of things. Bearing in mind that your sort of pivot along the middle of this really does line up quite nicely with the middle of this triangle overall, and that's kind of what we're looking at. So then on down towards the even smaller time frames, what could be of use for people over the period of the next 24 hours, I suppose, is looking at this 1 hour chart. We don't need the MACD to have such pride of place here on this thing. By the way, if you're wondering, I use the MACD without the MACD line on it. Use the histogram just, and I will at some point kind of put together little explainer videos and then put in little things into the Nightbot thingy, so that you can come along and say like !DMI, and you'll have a wee explanation and a link to my explainer video and all this sort of lovely stuff. But in the meantime, not doing any of that. In the meantime, I'm doing that. It's just going to take a while for me, whatever. We'll see how these things go. I always have lots of plans with these things. So we're in this consolidation-y type area right at support. You could be looking at this if you're looking at the small time frames. And this could be what somebody was mentioning before in terms of it being like an ascending triangle. Of course, you have to kind of squint your eyes and ignore a lot of breaches of that zone. But that was just me kind of, making the point on and around about where we find this proposed trade idea with its obvious risk and its obvious likelihood of going into this underwater for a while, and this downward movement, which you could maybe get a chunk of along the way towards the middle area if we did a measured move off the back of this. Now that's entirely unfair, and realistically it's more like this sort of 50-50 type mentality again, like we're seeing on the bigger picture, and that's also fair enough. So what's the measured move off the back of this one? And obviously any sort of move up looking for a full move off of the back of that in the near future could be in it around about those zones that we find the fake out territory coming in. Movements past that area kind of put you into thinking, well, maybe we'll go the full way. Of course, it depends on how you played your trade. If you were doing it along those lines and you were thinking about this sort of a thing about how the textbook idea of 60% comes in, are we far enough into this for it to have a break? Yeah, sure we are. Something to look out for over the next 24 hours then, I suppose, and asking the questions about what sort of volume are we seeing. So if I just pop the volume back on here, because I've hidden it for a wee while, you can see that we're not seeing anything that's particularly standout-ish on any of the time frames with regards to the recent movements in the price action. You can see there was big volume candles over there, not so much here in that rise up over the weekend. So the fact that it happened over the weekend, I think that we can retrospectively look back at it and say that it was a degree of weekend relief that we saw coming in here with the upward movement in terms of the price action. We didn't see anything stand out in terms of volume, and that's just what you get, and that's what we find ourselves in, and this is the overall zone, and that's really where you get to choose to manage your own trade. I've taken you 95% of the way, whatever level you want to be at in trading, so that's cool enough. Let's just kind of move on with things then. There are things we could look at with RSI. I'm not going to look at it in too great detail. Like I said, we're above the moving average on there in terms of this 4-hour time frame, so that's something that's positive. Convergent in the sense that we're consolidating here. You could call this hidden bullish divergence divergence that we had over the weekend, and it's played out to the extent that we've come in to challenge our profit taking area, and that's kind of just played out as we expected. And in terms of the DMI, if you want to look at that, we've got this positive cross here just as we're coming back down below 25. So if things turn around at the minute and we consolidate further, this will just develop into chop. And if we actually get a breakout with a bit of volume, whatever else, let's see how that goes. Otherwise, then we're looking and asking questions about whether or not we just see a sort of short-term turnaround, in which case our targets have already been identified. And that orange line, by the way, which maybe should have had its place up there at the top of this, is of course 21k, and what do we want to put in there at 21k is as the sort of song thing, I'm in heaven. That's what we'll just put there. Something heaven. I'm in heaving. I put a G on the end of it, so there you go. That's what's happening. I'm in heaving. Cool, nice one. So let me just see how everyone's getting along in the chat there. I can see Horn Hunter's arrived, and that's good to see you, buddy. Nice to have you here, Brandon. Nice to have everybody who is joined us so far. I hope I've not missed anybody that's in there. So what have we been talking about recently? Let me see. She's in the closet. Who's that? Oh, Susan's in the closet, is she? Susan's in the closet. 21k Susan released. Yeah, where's Susan? It's a shame that she's not with us this evening. Maybe she's in heaving. That means. Thank you for everybody who has joined us today, by the way, to take a look at the Bitcoin technical analysis together. We're going to roll back to this soon, don't worry. We're going to just kind of go through looking at how everything's gone over the course with the other coins recently, and the chat that we had over the weekend for, you know, with the chances of this kind of stuff playing out has happened here, coming in here and touching the 618 kind of perfectly at 595 before dropping back down the way. We know that the distance between these 2 points here in most likelihood is going to line up to saying that if we move down below this line at 582, that we're looking at a 236 being taken out, and of course that's the first early signs of let me just line that up, 580, let's call it then, whatever, that's the first early signs of course, the potential to be moving down for a retracement, where it'll come in and retest the 236 if we need to do that, and put in a higher low at that stage, if that's how things go. Now, of course, that's much more complicated technical analysis. What am I doing? I meant to keep things simple. That was my way of keeping things simple. You could do the same thing, by the way, in terms of what we were looking at over there on Bitcoin. Might as well do it since we've done it here, and I've already broken the whole idea of being simple. This, of course, is your fake out territory where the 236 comes in at there, with movements that go below 19k but don't really satisfy that, with closures that keep on moving down the way. And then, of course, you could be looking into these areas down below at the sort of 18,200 if you wanted to go for a 618, and if that's just what you were thinking, and whatever. Okay, cool, nice one. So we've done it justice. Same sort of chat, by the way, with regards to looking at this on the 4-hour time frame, except however this way around it is we've had a cross that's negative and we're in chop currently. So look at just casting our eye back the way, it was kind of like this idea over here. We saw the cross happen at this point on the DMI on Bitcoin, and it looked like it could be positive, but of course then it turned out in terms of Ethereum to just go into chop, which is what I was saying before with regards to where we find ourselves now if this were to just kind of go into that sort of format. So there we go. At least I kind of deconstructed and made and re-simplified things back down again there at that point. So that's cool. We can move on with the show. Structure wise, you know, taking out our lows here, obviously very much negative for us. If that were to happen and we're looking down at casting our eye down to that 530 area, very negativo. Moving up past this zone here actually would be quite good for us now. We've got a couple of things. Psychological number, $600. We've got the VPVR coming in here and showing us the way, you know, pointing its finger and saying this is of course what we need to look to at that point right there. So yeah, $600. Obviously then you're looking up towards 613, 623 and 636 without actually breaching any of the current sort of charted areas with regards to the price. If we wanted to close up in this zone up here, we'd also be putting in a higher high, but we could look at this in a broader structure point of view, back up onto the 24-hour time frame, and remember that this overall so far has been moving towards the downside. And if we want to make it back up to these heady heights up there, that's cool, we could totally do it. Just remove that for now. and put in an idea in terms of just one simple sort of pattern construct here for us, just one simple one. If you were looking at this and saying that, of course, a movement from the outside of this zone towards the top side could take you into where we saw that wick coming in at, and of course towards the downside could take you into where we saw this wick coming in at before overall. Now this is just a simple way of kind of drawing your eyes to the point that I was really making in terms of regards to the structure, that moving up past 620 is obviously important, moving down and closing below 517 is bad, and of course then actually properly sinking into those sub 500 areas on daily candle closure basis is putting you into a downward trend here. And then you would be looking at this as being some sort of topping formation. But of course, when any of these formations that you come into, you're looking for whether or not you break up or down, can obviously then diagnose if you're having a bullish breakout or a bearish one, after the fact, where you've got the pattern. So if we were to have you wouldn't, that's why you don't look for head and shoulders at the top here, but if you were to have some sort of crappy cup with handle type atmosphere going on here with a really, really tiny lived cup idea, but you're just kind of really what you're saying there is that you put in a high here and you put in a higher low over here, and essentially you're trending towards the top side. That's still totally possible and totally doable. This could be trending towards the downside. It's totally possible, totally doable. It really comes into the structure of how we're looking at the minute, and what's going to give us a clue then. I know that's very simple and that's extremely accessible TA hopefully for new people. Hopefully, let me know if it's not. But what you're looking at here, of course, is this diminishing volume throughout. So what we want to keep our eyes out for is looking in here at this area with our laser beam eyes and our stern expression, saying, what are you really doing with regards to volume when we go past any of these sorts of points in the market? In the meantime, we're in the in-between area. If you wanted to to sort of take a bearish stance and prove yourself wrong early on with regards to this one, I would simply structure it along these sorts of lines, for instance, and look towards, saying like moving up past these zones. Obviously, just relinquish any trade ideas. Finding support in these zones wouldn't be, super against my comprehension, in which case I'd be willing to relinquish any positions or whatever and thinking about it that way. And if you want to think about things bullishly, then it's just a matter of re-squinting your eyes and looking at how we've not managed to breach any of this support on the way up. That we've got higher highs coming in overall, and there could be some sort of upward structure on the go there. Of course, as well, the result of taking away that top line and removing it puts us into what is which could clearly form out if we don't take out the highs and move back down and put in yet another higher low as a wedge in this area if we do anything like that. Okay, so those are your sort of the three ways that things could pan out in the next wee whiley for Ethereum. Going to go on to take a look at Tezos and Link now. So of course, as well, thank you so much for joining me for the live stream. Hit that like button if you wouldn't mind, I'd love it. What do you want to look at first, Link or Tezos? Link or Tezos? Link or Tezos? We'll do Link first because we don't really do, I suppose, in a sense. It makes it easier for the Tez heads to find the Tez section. So what have we done here? Of course, we have managed to, and you should be able to see then with regards to, if you're new to trading, what the anticipated areas for profit taking would be coming in at. Now, of course, as well, moving past those profit taking areas where sufficiently enough volume of profit has been taken by people and the momentum continues to rise towards the top side, allowing people who've already sort of relinquished their trades to then want to actually then push it on up to the next level and do that absurd thing of breaching past a twin peak or triple peak high onto a higher level. Psychologically, when people like to think about things and look at charts, they tend to sort of bind things within ranges. So if you're looking at that happening, then of course that is all in this upper area past $16. But in the meantime, we have a few targets which are much more accessible in terms of a trading perspective as opposed to an investment perspective to look up to. Now, of course, if this were to continue to be in this ascending, broadening structure, then it would start to get to the point where where it starts to get a little bit absurd. But of course, you know, it could happen. That you kind of then start to think, when you get that feeling of the absurdity, that maybe you would put things on a logarithmic chart. If you're seeing that the extensions towards the higher price areas are going that little bit further and then that little bit lower overall, and you've got that stretched candle look as you go towards the top side, you find that if you've got it then on log, because let me just give you a quick example here for anybody that's new, this distance between the prices of $6.50 down to $3.90 is that size visually here on a logarithmic chart. Move up the way and that distance is that size visually. So you then find this, they find the sort of the structure of these things working a little bit better, and then of course you have this parallel channel here. But the problem with it slightly comes in with, oops, undo here. So I'm still trying to keep things simple. I'm not very good at keeping things ultra simple. I'll try that next time. Actually, maybe we'll do Monday and Tuesdays as being the simple days or something, and I don't know, whatever. If you're looking at it that way, there's two sort of aberrations on this, or whatever. You could have this starting point here and this end point. You can line it up in whatever way you want, but you get a more or less parallel channel structure. We had this test outside of it on the movements down past the 236, which is just that faint line in the background, on down towards the 50% area. I've gone complicated again. What we've seen, is that there's this range structure, right? Range structure we're operating in towards the top side, and it has been a broadening from a point of view of linear, but on the logarithmic we're still within this channel structure. Now there was a little bit of testing outside of it as well, but we're looking like we could be moving our way back into it. If we do, then we've got a couple of targets towards the top side within the range in order to kind of, you know, trade within the least area affected by exuberant risk outside of the, you know, into the Derby Dragons area of the chart, if you will, or we'll sort of trade within the manageable, comprehensible structure areas, right? That's what we're kind of going for here, and trying to keep things nice and simple. So what we're looking to is a few ideas at the top side. Now, of course, the first profit taking target comes in with a Fibonacci retracement point at 236. If you don't understand that, that's cool. That's just where one of those is there at $13.62. So you're talking 80 cents up from where we are just now. And then your next really kind of significant target comes in at the $16 area, really, you know, where we had our previous high. Looking over here, you know, that would put you into the middle of the channel. And if you think about things from a channel point of view, then what you actually do like to do on a channel is to have a median line in there as well. So you could, you know, structure that along these sorts of an idea here, you know, and then you'd be coming in at around about this zone where you could potentially find inflection in the market. It might be worth checking, you know, with regards to your own risk profile, how you're doing with regards to your trade at that point. But the next target then up thereafter at that point becomes $19 in our previous high, again up here at that zone up above, above. Right, okay, and various other permutations could happen at that point thereafter. Profit taking, obviously, at all-time highs is always fairly wise, although I'm not a financial advisor. None of that is financial advice. And of course, looking towards the downside, failure to take out that 236 at $13.50-ish or whatever, you're looking in towards our previous lows down here at the $11.62 area. Movement down past $12 is obviously fairly sort of threatening in that front, but you'd have to be looking down on the smaller time frames to really kind of establish how you're structure wise you're going at this point. If you just hide everything off, you can see that there has been this downward movement with regards to the price action here since over there on the 25th of November down to where we're, you know, where we've at now, where we had lows where the body closes have been beaten by subsequent body closes, and the highs have not been beaten by subsequent high closes towards the top side, forming this downward trend area. But then it's also tightening in a sense, and that means that it would be kind of forming up like a wedge, and these things, when they're sort of pointing a wedgy formation, can then is like a tightening of a spring, and at certain points then of course then you can continue on. And the way that you would, you know, continue on, if you think about it like a tightening spring, a ratchet or whatever, the way that you would continue on would be in where your sort of previous momentum had been. So if you were flowing down river and whatever, and then you tightened up something and you paddled further, you're going to keep going with the current or whatever, that type of idea. So you'd be hoping for it to go towards the top side on that front, you know, and that would be a reversal pattern would be how they would talk about that. Cool. So anyway, if that were to be the case, now of course structurally you can see when you zoom back out and take more information into account that if you were to break down towards the downside, you could look at this as being sort of like head and shoulders patterns as well, which means that you've got a neckline on the go really at some point, and we can consider this to be a zone, and it really comes in at around about that $11 area down towards towards even as far as the sort of 10.33, where you'd be hoping for a higher low. If you actually breach that and you go down past $10, then hey, we're looking at different stuff at that point. But you're talking about a 30% move almost at that point anyway. So you would be kind of beyond the range of what you'd be realistically thinking about in terms of trading targets, in terms of entries and exits. Over the period of the next few days. But there you go. There's your link technical analysis for you. If you want to see how things could potentially shape up over the period of the next 24 hours, we'll just take a quick look in here at the 1 hour chart and bring up as an example, to not go overboard, the RSI. Now this RSI is of course customized to the way that I like to use the RSI, and that's totally fine because it's accessible. You can get access to this as well yourself, no problem. I'll give you the code for it, it's dead easy. And it's got this bull zone at the top and this bear zone at the bottom. And if we go beyond either of these two zones into this black abyss, or this interstellar space, that's when things of course are in the extreme positions and likely to turn around. But when you're in these zones, then of course you're also saying that the bulls are in control or the bears are in control, and that type of idea. And as well, you've got the middle line here, the middle line significant for a number of reasons. But of course we can see that we've just pushed up past it, pick up a penguin, and we can see that puts us past all of this resistance and support that we had. And we can see there's been a great deal of inflection in the past in around about this middle line, and that's great to see here in the 1 hour time frame, putting us above the moving average. Now if we can find support in terms of like continuing that trend up the way, then we can ignore the sort of other things about it which are kind of negative looking. For instance, if you turn around here at the bullish control zone and move down the way, then you'd have a head and shoulders on the RSI. Excuse me, hit the microphone, hope I didn't break it. But anyway, keep things nice and simple. We're moving towards the top side in the RSI, moving towards the top side in the 1 hour time frame, have been really over the last couple of days looking back the way, and that's good to see. And there's this potential for us to come up and try nice new areas and then upward trend that's been able to come in here so far without divergence, which I'll not explain, but you can see in the 1 hour time frame that's decent. So could it be reasonable to think that we go from here up another 40 cents over the period of the next 24 hours? Yeah, that's totally reasonable. Are there easy enough trades to put on in these areas? Sure there are. And what sort of things could you really think about as well? Well, you could maybe stop out around about where we had a parallel channel, for instance, if you were thinking about that. That comes in at where we find our previous low. As you can see here, movements down the way, of course, put you into this mucky zone where you could expect fake outs and everything else, but you maybe don't want to experience that chop when you're trading. Instead, you're looking for those clean cut sirloin steak trades, in which case then you'd be looking in these areas, and of course then you'd be taking profits perhaps in at $13.50, and perhaps then at $15, perhaps then at $16.50, and then perhaps then thereafter at $18.20 if things were going along those sorts of ways and you were trading off a plan that based along those lines, that could maybe work for you. But in terms of actually being up here on these bigger time frames, let's bear in mind that there is the potential, if we don't actually get past into that $13 zone, that we'll never see any of that, and it could all just come back down the way. And if it does come back down the way, then we need to look at the $11 area. If not, if we manage to find successful sort of footing in between here and there, then by all means go on ahead and conduct more technical analysis of your own sort of taste. For instance, on the 15-minute time frame, was this an inverted head and shoulders that we saw between the 10th of December and the 12th of December, just here with a shoulder, a head and shoulder that then moved us towards the top side, getting a full measured move off the back of it, resulting in the downward trend from here? Yeah, it was. Could we look for similar sort of things like that in an inverted situation with any movements towards the top side to see if we fail and stuff like that? Yeah, we could. So those would be things that I would think about if I were you looking at trading this, and where I would find my entries and exit with regards to all the stuff we've already talked about to do with the trend and the bigger key pivot areas. And of course, they're past those points of chop that I said earlier, you might not really want to get too stuck into if you're new to trade it. Cool. Hey Rocky, TradeSpawn, hit the like button to say thanks. Thank you so much for that. Cheers, buddy. That's cool to see you using the Nighthawk for its thing. Right, cool, nice one. Yeah, right, sweet. So we can move on to Tezos now. Tezos, previously, you can see here with the analysis that we've done here in the 24-hour time frame, we're asking questions. Could we move past this general zone where we had this bear flag? As you can see, if you want to see a nice example of a bear flag on a 24-hour time frame, you got movement towards the downside. Again, if you're a beginner trader, you probably will have heard people talk about this concept of flags, and they happen in a way that's maybe difficult for you to find many examples of so far, which are like, Beautiful. Here's one, and we got that bear flag. We move towards the downside thereafter, and we got the sort of the flagpole that you can see here became the subsequent movement down the way in that sort of half staff flag pattern here, whatever, towards the downside. Lovely jubbly. It wasn't actually half staff, but you know, I'm just saying that because that's where the flag was. Go ahead and read the textbook if you want to know what that actually means. But then again, you're never going to find yourself really discussing these sorts of technicals with people. Just so you can see it, whatever. That's cool. If we can get past that zone again, that's the good stuff, and that's up there at 260. And we have yet to, you know, really get into the nitty gritty meat of this sort of neckline area. Now, I know that this isn't a perfect head and shoulders by any means, but you could look at it in a numerous ways. And if you actually wanted to be really sort of strict on it, you could say that we're not really getting anywhere till we're past 280. And that's something we've kind of talked about on the channel before in the past, with people saying that they're thinking about taking profit in around about those areas, and that's something to be aware of as well. Which is cool. So this meaty zone is so far up in terms of percentage moves that if we do see the continuation in terms of positivity at the minute, then just moving back up to where our previous highs is 20% away from where the price currently resides. So that's lovely jubbly. So there's your broad perspective stuff. Let's just stick an extra couple of horizontal lines on here or something, so that, you know, so that this is, you know, fairly simplistic take on the TA here. I'm not looking at the oscillators and whatever just now. I've not got moving averages on or anything else. I'm not sticking on tons of Fibonacci's or anything. The reason I'm doing this is because at the start of the week here, I'm going to try and keep things a bit more simple and do the more complicated stuff throughout the week, help people get into the groove. But of course, you know, you can learn an awful lot still by trying to keep things simple, and I fail at the job anyway. I make things complicated. I tend to explain things anyway. Right, but yeah, so a couple of horizontal lines then. Why do we not stick some of them on just to give us that key idea? So we know that we had our previous high body close in here, and over here this was as high as we got in that area. Looking back the way we can see we had 3 wicks coming in at this zone, you know, popping down here. This 260, it's 260 something, call it 266 area, clearly important in terms of the history of the price here as we look to the left, and we can see that story continues. So that's a really nice one to have on there. Miles away in terms of the percentage moves in the coin. Plenty of trading to be done in the meantime if you're so inclined, which I'm sure you are. Not a financial advisor. But then we have, you know, a couple of key areas. We could put in a sort of trend line here and say that we don't want to be seeing breaches of this towards the downside. That's obviously quite strict, but the idea here being that this was your low that came in at this point, and this is a higher low after this high, and we want to be going in and going up and at least, you know, putting in something which comes up and tests our previous high, in which case we could have that consolidation effect there, or indeed even if we push past that line, that absurd idea that I talked about as well earlier, but people, you know, who buy into the movement past a point at which, you know, psychologically to a lot of people that looks like a scary thing to do there at that particular area. It really depends how the interaction and the run up to it goes that might lead to that. And could this then ultimately turn into a cup with handle? Well, if you, and I know that things have got a little bit more, they got out of hand, immediately got more advanced. Right, stick on the let's just measure the low here to the high up there. 50% was in here. We went past it. Actually came in at 786. That's not really cup with handle material, but there's actually your what you call it, your lip, you know, and that's going wick to wick, or body to body, brings in 786 again. Yeah. Pushed on past. I wouldn't like to call that a cup with handle at this point here. If we come up here, then maybe we would see a subsequent retrace off the way, and you're looking at a triple top, perhaps. Triple top break out, perhaps. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, this could also be that head and shoulders thing, whatever. But we're looking and seeing, can we not trend towards the downside, essentially? So movements down there for past $2 become the important area to look to. You could see the prices drop into the 190 zone, find support and come on up the way and actually not close out lower than that. We want to at the very least sort of consolidate, but hopefully continue the trend of the higher lows and higher highs. So the higher high would come in there at 268. Somebody driving past going honk, honk, honk outside. 260s, 270s, you know, that's where you're getting that higher high at. Coming in here at $2, that's where your low's at. Trading between that area is your wisest move. Let's then go down then towards the 4 hour time frame and see how we're coming along here. And this trend line looks a lot more sort of, you know, nice in terms of an entry, going back over there towards the sort of the opening of the weekend and where we find ourselves now, and coming in here and asking another question about could this be yet another of these sort of cup with handle type movements with a double top there, then a movement back. So if we come up here and push past 227, it would be nice to see us get continuation towards the top side so that we can end this downward trend. So if you're looking at this with your sort of beginner eyes, I wouldn't be surprised if you find this all just difficult to look at. That's okay. In this section here, what you see is an overall downward trend, and that's identified by having high, low, lower high, lower low. And at the moment, you know, until such times as we get past that zone, are we going to have another lower high? And that's why that comes in there, sort of, you know, closing up above the 230 zone. Very, very good. Movements down past then, of course, the $2.07, if you want to call it this area, then are obviously quite bad. Going on down the way towards the 1 hour time frame, then how do we look at this? Just that's what we've done so far with all the other things so far. And essentially, by the way, to sort of remap your brain, if you are new to technical analysis, tuning in here, what we've done therefore is looked at some examples and then looked across different charts to kind of relay that, repeat that information to help kind of let it settle in. And now we're finding ourselves back down on the 1 hour time frame, asking how could we see things go over the next 24 hours with this coin at the minute with regards to what we've really been up to recently. And it's a wee bit annoying in a sense that this high has come up so high that it puts us in this position where we can look at this from another perspective that we've already talked about similar ideas so far in the channel with regards to the inverted head and shoulders and whatnot, and the head and shoulders at different times. Could you see this here? Well, there's a couple of things that are wrong about that notion in terms of the prior trend, and just looking to the left, you know, that doesn't really make much sense. You could then try and make the argument of that inverted head and shoulders in the bigger time frame, because from the trend point of view that makes more sense. But we do know that this is obviously an upward trend here. Let's take a look at the RSI and see if there's anything too scary coming in with regards to the let's hope and see if we can see actually some hidden bullish divergence, right? That's as far as we'll go with them. We'll hopefully see some hidden bullish divergence in here, or indeed just regular bullish divergence between these two lows. So what we're going to be looking at is between these two lows and this low over here, these sort of 1, 2, 3 points. So this area in the RSI, this area in the RSI, and this area in the RSI. And we'll also look between this low here and our subsequent low over here and see if we've got any hidden bullish divergence or anything on the go. Okay, that's what we'll do there. Trying to keep things nice and simple for everyone. I'm having to actually zoom in here to make it visible, but their previous low was all the way over here. So it's actually this point here, this low versus this low. Okay, that low versus that low. Come on up screen. So yeah, look at that. This low came in lower than the subsequent low, and then of course that was bullish divergence. So we had a bit bullish divergence between those 2 points there. Did we have any hidden bullish divergence between these two lows over here? So we're going back as far as this area. This on the 1 hour time frame. It's going to actually give a bit of a confused picture. But probably better to look at this in terms of the 4 hour, since you know it's easier to see. So I'm not going to get too complicated. If you don't know what hidden bearish divergence is, don't worry. These things will get explained throughout time. Or hidden bullish divergence. No, there isn't really any of that. This was quite a significant low overall coming into that oversold territory, which is very kind of infrequent on it actually anyway, before we moved up the way overall. So, so fair enough. That's where we are. So key areas for us come into looking at this point here, $2.06, $2.30. If we are going to find out an area in between where we struggle, that's going to be $2.52. Historically speaking, that's been a big area for us. Looking to the left, you can also see that the price point that we're at right now in at the 22222 area does seem to be important. If I just highlight it some more with another horizontal line here, it does seem to be important. Looking to the left, we know 22222 is important for some other reasons as well, but we don't need to get into the nitty gritty of it. Movements up past this point here, what do we see in the VPVR on the right? So we see this bigger node comes out and then goes in again, as you can see in this area here. And this VPVR thing shows you, like, in terms of what we have on the screen just now anyway, what volume of trading happened at certain price points. So we know that movements up past this zone here, where there could be a lot of noise past this area of of support or resistance, sorry, if it becomes support thereafter, and this subsequent resistance area is where we're going to then maybe, you know, have the rocket fuel to go up the way. And it's at that point I'm going to ask more questions about momentum and whatever else. Then would you consider it people wise to take profits at any of those areas if we do see upward movement? Probably would be wise. Key area in between then is definitely going to be in it around about here in the middle of these three areas that we have. So those three lines, or those two lines, making it three. Cool, nice one. That's the Tezos analysis for today. Nice one. I'm going to jump into the chat, see everybody's getting along, and then potentially, if there's no request for coins or whatever, take a look at having another cup of tea and saying cheerio and that. I want to keep things nice and simple, so you know that's what we're up to. Hope everybody's having a good time. Having a good time out there. How are you getting on with Nightbot, by the way? Let me know if Nightbot is annoying you with his spamminess or anything like that. So let me just scroll into the chat, see how you're all getting on. Rem, yes, REM, correct. Peter, you got the title of this. You got the song. That was, of course, The End of the World. As we know it, and I feel fine. I'm officially a spanner, says Trace1. Lovely, jubbly, yes. 20k today, lol, what's up everybody? Happy Monday. Wouldn't it be nice if that was possible? Going back over to the Bitcoin charts, which is of course what I should have already done. Silly me, tisk, and zooming on in. We've already got all of our numbers up there, so I'll put that on again at the end of the show for people who are interested, but there's all of the numbers that you need to know. And whoops. Undo. Yes. Perfect. The undo button. The savior of my entire life. Undo. Right. Great. So, 15-minute time frame perhaps? Something like that. Just for the crack. And get it visible on Screenable. We've got this upward movement. We've got this downward movement. This is where we are right now. Lovely, jubbly. I could have positioned this in different ways if I'd really been particularly bothered about it, but you can see, you can add that to your own charts at the minute if you like. Good to have you all here, by the way, and all that good stuff. So let me just see, Zoner, what are you saying at the minute there? Could be the beginning of a Wyckoff distribution. Of course it could be, of course it could be, of course it could be, and that is something that we can talk about throughout the week, I suppose. In terms of if you are a beginner trader, I don't know why I'm doing this today, but I think it's a good idea, right? Let me know what you think. What's Wyckoff distribution? Wyckoff was this guy that worked in a trading office back in the day, very much back in the day, we're talking many decades and decades ago, and he was thinking, what's going on here with those guys over there in that office behind the room as they discuss what's going on with the prices and everything and where they're going to trade their big accounts and how are they moving around. I was able to translate some of the ideas from what these people at the top end of the market were doing with the big accounts into understandable ideas to present them to the general population in a way to educate people how they could also trade properly and identified areas of distribution and accumulation. Essentially what that means is people trying to get shot of their capital, people trying to sell their stuff, or people trying to buy it in big amounts. And this could be one of those Wyckoff distribution things. Super interesting if you want to read about it. If you're new to trading, then it certainly is a nice idea and something that you can look up, and it'll help you kind of understand some dynamics about the market as have been understood and written down in textbooks for well over 7 decades. Yeah, cool. K-Doc, make time today to tell us how the advertising vid went. Oh, cool. Let's do that. Let's do that now. Let's do that now. I need to check this myself because I do know I checked it a little bit. Did you all watch TET advert? I wonder if you did. The stats on it are fairly high. Yeah, cool. Let's do that. 21k Susan gets released. That's so funny. Can anyone play the harmonica? How you diddling? Tradesbot? Yeah, somebody said howdy. So Tradesbot said howdy, and then Nightbot said how you diddling back. I suppose it kind of gets in the way when people are talking to each other. I don't know. Yeah, whatever. 36 cents XRP for the win. Yeah, quick XRP, says K-Doc. So cool, we'll check out the ad. I'm so down on XRP, it ain't even funny, says K-Doc. You must have got in there at the top. Might be as aggressive as Grayscale, but that's it, Trace Ones. Cool, Eric says cool. Nice to have you here, K-King. Good to see you. I hope you're all doing very well. So no doubt people want to see how XRP is doing. The other thing we were going to look at, how the ad went with the old AdSense and all that crap. Right, cool. XRP army. 49 cents, 45 pence. No, 49 cents, 49 centy cents. 70 cents. We're coming down the way here. This is the 15-minute time frame, so you're not going to get an awful lot of hope in this front. You can tell, by the way, that, like, does this look great? No. Does that look good? Much better. Crap, good. Crap, good. Crap, good. Crap, good. Crap, good. Unfortunately, crap is the reality for us. This is the other one was the inverted chart. Movements so far have just been towards the downside. Do we have anything decent to report? Because we have, of course, a lot of lows to look at. We've got this distinct upward movement here on the RSI, so this is your first bit of hope. Good stuff on the 15-minute chart. As we put in these sort of you want to call that wick. This came down, touched it, then again 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sort of times area here, and ever so slightly you're getting that sort of class B divergence, bullish divergence towards the top side, which you'd obviously want to see, at this point, going up towards the 1 hour time frame, where the same thing will be visible. 1, 2, 3 sort of in your triple bottom area here. Looking at the RSI, you can see that, well, it's not perfect, that for the last ages we've had this movement here, but of course you've got this wedge type structure as well. You could maybe be saying now this doesn't look good, because it's like, the thing is, it's like we talked about this as well, as I've said throughout the episode here, and it's nice that I've been doing this in that simple way. That absurd idea, right? It's the absurd idea of buying it, if it were to break past this point here, in the terms of a triple top. I've talked about this idea on at least a couple of the charts so far, right? And here we get to see in as an example. Now this is me with the inverted XRP chart up here on the 1 hour time frame, and saying, if we did see the prices push past that, you'd be selling it, because this is the reality here as well, that you've got this triple bottom. Now, of course, people would maybe see that we come down here and think, oh no, golly gosh, we've had all this divergence and there's lots of good reasons to be looking towards the top side. But you have to admit, like, looking down past this area, that there's like 10% drop-offs in price before you get to your next there. There's no risk-free way to look for a counter trend move past breaches of this area until such times as we've reclaimed it again. And what is that area? I'm sure you'll be curious to know. Let's go look for it, shall we? If I've hit extend, like, oh, here we go. So that is the 1618. What the fuck is it doing there? Excuse me, because I don't actually know where it's come from. Oh, from that down to there. Right, okay. Well, it makes sense, actually. You'd want to see that maintain that line. That's nice where that's come in at. It's nice that that's where that happens to be at, actually. So there you go. Makes sense why we did that. Of course, then you'd be looking up towards the 2618 as your next target, 72. So that would be nice if we maintain this. And you've got a couple of areas as well just above, as you can see, that we're trying real hard to push past. If we can get past this 52 cents area, it's just another 3 up from where we are. Then, of course, that's very good. Looking towards the breaching area, 48 cents or whatever, that's not so great. But you could easily be wicking around in any of these areas. Failure would be failure, right? And you'd have to think of it as being negative all the way along the times, until such times as you see something really positive come into play to give you that boost, that hope, such as perhaps this undoing itself pronto, which would be what would be happening if we saw it turn around and go take out that 52, 53 cents area. So take it out on the 24-hour time frame, look towards the DMI, see are we getting the cross back up the way. If you want to know the reality of what we're looking at here, this movement up the way, when you come up to these areas, extremely bullish on the way up, all that stuff, great. You don't know necessarily when it's all going to go to pot, but when this comes back down the way, not good. Then not taking out your previous high, not good. Then and then you see the movement down the way. Funnily enough, quick comparison to be made here, when you look between the Bitcoin chart and you say, look, we did the same thing, but we actually did take out our other high and we put in that one, which is where that whole FOMO belief can actually come in at, where while you're maybe looking at XRP at the minute going, god damn, is this rolling over at the minute? It's way easier to discount that idea when it comes to Bitcoin because of this specific facet on the chart right there, know. Of course, by the way, the other things I didn't talk about is how we could have been in a descending triangle, managed to find this sort of support area here, you know, where we find our body closes at, come back up, test the top end, and are we breaking out of it? And, you know, we'd have to look towards things like the lack of volume to say that we're not really doing that quite yet, and maybe this is premature, and that's why I didn't bother talking about it during this episode. But anyway, you know, you want to see that sort of thing moving towards. Wait, what am I talking about here? With this example of the that was of this high in terms of how we're going along there, or how we're going along there, and how it looks like it could be, you know, negative, and that's what happened. You know, we failed to do it, and this is what the result is here. But we're overall in the same sort of position, right? So you can see the market generally, how there's the threat there, and of course there's the good potential for upside. And maybe this is one of those instances where you can say, let's see what Bitcoin does, in a sense, if you want. If Bitcoin dies, then XRP, I'd say, is in for a rough ride. What else would you want in terms of positivity? I suppose that low there's no hidden bullish divergence, but there was bearish bullish. Nah, it's just looking like it's down, you know, and until it isn't. Sorry, buddy. Sorry about that. Okay, Doc. Advertise your face off. Do I have another tab somewhere else with my Google Ads open? Let me just sort of hunt around. I'm a million tabs type of guy, by the way. Whatever, let's open up a new one. A new tab, here we go. Oops, we don't want it on full screen though. Google AdSense or something like that. Google AdSense, there we go. Google AdSense. Let's see if I can hack my way into my Google AdSense. Come on, load. One thing I love about Google AdSense so far is that it's super slow. We apologize for the inconvenience, but we're unable to process your request this time. Engineers have been notified of the problem and will work to resolve it. That's what that says, K-Doc. Might not be able to give you much info. Yeah, we're going to have to come back and take a look at the ad stats tomorrow. I can at least show you like some sort of quick ideas in terms of the performance of the video with the amount of views that it's had. So there's that. So I can go to my channel. Sorry about that. That sucks. I wanted to show everybody that. I was really looking forward to being able to do that. What do you think of my NAF thumbnail today? It's quite good in a way. I like it. I like the NAFness, but you know me, I like a bit of NAF. Manage videos. So you can see to advert in the videos here. Where is she? By the way, I put out a few videos last week from the thing. So if you're watching last week's live stream, you might be interested in knowing that, you know, there's a discussion here about the price during the MA cross, and I cut out a couple of different snippets from throughout the live stream and put it together. And then there's another one, upside down charting, kind of showing you how you can look at the charts upside down and whatever in that video over there as well. So a few educational videos along with all the other stuff that I put out. Oh, by the way, K-Doc as well, is there's the XRP and XLM, pardon me, from before. Analytics on this jobby. So look at that. Wow, great. But that's of course because paying Google has to put it out there. Woo! It's had 1.2 thousand views. It's got to probably be up there with one of my best ever videos. So far in terms of the performance... I've lost a subscriber, so I've paid to reduce the amount of subscribers in the on the channel. So there's your stat there, which is kind of funny because look at the amount of people. Look the amount of thingy. So it's a 40-second ad, right? And 94.4% of people are watching the whole thing, or yeah, or no, 100% of people. On average, are watching 94.4% of it. Wow, in terms of watch time, that's got to be pretty good, because I know for one that when I'm watching YouTube, I'm pretty good at skipping dem ads, you know, within the first 30 seconds, more or less, regardless. So that's pretty decent. But yeah, it's not working for us, is it? -1 subscribers. Anyway, that's a good laugh. Wonder what you all made of that. Cool. So anyway, might not be as great. Oh yeah, that's it. That was when K King arrived in here. Had a very busy week. First live stream that you've caught. Yeah, cool. Nice to have you here, buddy. Too busy by far if you missed the weekend. I was talking about the last 7 days. Lol. I gotcha. Worked the weekend as well. Did 650 miles just Sunday alone. Oh, you get your mileage in there, all right. Fair play putting in the hours this time of year. Yes, sir. Wonder where BTC will be when we have the first meetup in the US. Yeah, totally. I wonder. Yeah, totally. Working for my money to eventually make my money work for me. Nice. Like it. That's a good one. That could make it into the quote thing. I've also got a quote thing in here. If I go like exclamation mark quote, does it say something back? I think this might be something. So I might have to add quotes. And I think I can add quotes. So I can do like I can do this sort of thing, and this is what I thought I would do. I would copy something that somebody says, which is cool, and then go add quote, and then stick it in, and go K. Put your thingy in there. 1, 3, 6, 7. Do that. Right, check it out. And then at times then a random quote will get put back. So if I then ask for a quote, then we'll get random quotes out from the crowd. How cool is that? So well done to K King for being the inaugural quote on there. I also wanted to stick a bunch of my own ones, you know, the sort of things that I say from time to time. There are no quotes added. Well, there you go. A couple of bugs in the system, perhaps. Give me a goddamn quote. I know I added a quote. So, yeah. Anyway, cool. Let's just stick on the Bitcoin chart again and revisit it. I'm sorry that I can't sort of just sprinkle fairy dust onto that chart there and make it good again, but it can do it its own damn self. If it moves towards the top side, then you know, in terms of these low term time frames, you can easily draw on a lovely looking wedge as well if you wanted to, and look for breaches above this downward sloping trend line, you know. So you're thinking like, oh, I'm underwater, it's tough, and you can kind of come along with these sorts of ideas, you know, and look towards the top side. Taking it to 236 is going to be your sort of analog for any idea in terms of any movements around about these zones at the minute for you, right? Okay, so that's going to be the easy analog, and taking out that one at 48, you know, could see us going down towards 45, and you know, nobody wants an additional 10% of pain. Thanks anyway, lol. Yeah, I'll figure it out. It'll happen eventually. Police siren. I don't have sound set up yet, K-Doc, but that's something to do. I'm going to make it so that the regulars and stuff like that can do those sorts of things. I'll have to be quite, you know, discretionary with who I kind of give out the old police siren thing to. But yeah, I need to cut a couple of the legit police siren sounds from outside, and then you can stick them on whenever I'm on a danger zone coin. By the way, if you're looking for magic, by the way, and everybody loves a bit of magic, right? I could cut this out, make it a thing. Hey, do you want magic? Here's some magic for you. If you go over to your chart and add on the Bollinger Bands, and you're thinking to yourself, XRP had a great rise up. Why did it drop? Or how did it drop? Or is there a way that I could have sprinkled some magic dust on the charts and seen this in advance? Well, there very much is. If you dive over to the weekly time frame and take a look at our friend XRP over here and how it responded towards the Bollinger Bands whenever it actually breached outside of this zone and came in, and it did drop down the way here and retest the Bollinger Bands, giving you an easy peasy Japanesey trade entry here for 31% decline in the price, which obviously was a decent discount if you're looking to buy it towards the top side, but then subsequently we've seen ourselves coming back down into the Bollinger Band zone. Little thing to look out for, always worth doing. Maybe you'd want to see a couple of examples of where we've been recently with regards to, you know, other charts. Bitcoin came outside of it here, moved back in again, still got a good strong potential chance of moving towards the top side, but you can do this on any time frame that you like, as you can see here on the monthly Bitcoin chart. Now what this actually leaves us with is if we have a rally towards the top side come December, the Bollinger Band average will actually be pushed up here to make it so that this wick does indeed touch the band and everything is hunky-dory. If we see the prices decline down the way, then perhaps we're seeing what we saw on the weekly chart with XRP over there on Bitcoin,
all forewarned in advance, making your trading life a little bit easier. Make sure you subscribe to the Rocky Outcrop channel.
Thanks very much. Anyway, there you go. Thought maybe if I want to stick that in there, I can put a wee stick a little stream marker in, so I know that I've put some random crap talk onto the channel. It's not crap talk. It's not crap talk. It's good talk. It's the talk. Anyway, yeah, cool. So I've done a coin for somebody. That's cool. Was it your ad that crashed Google today? Oh yeah, it probably was. Matt, sexy ad. Now that's a good tip. Cheers. Yeah. Isn't it a good tip? I'm going to put that on the channel, I think, as a little sort of thing that people should know. There it is. He said to short it. What we want to see in the next wee while when it comes to Bitcoin is the resolution to the short term emotions surrounding this gap on the charts. I think if we do see movements on the CME charts down past the 18,460 area, on down to 18,000 and perhaps even beyond, then I think things become rather tasty-licious. What you'll be looking at that stage is, of course, the gap having been filled, the momentum then carrying us on forwards there, and that of course would be a bearish scenario. Now, if we see the gap fill and the prices manage to maintain themselves above, this area, as you can see in the 24-hour time frame, that puts you in for the CMEs just to be testing the median line of the Bollinger Bands. And of course, that could be quite a bullish thing overall, should we see that we're able to maintain this area support and move towards the top side thereafter. Key areas to be beared in mind then, of course, zoom right into that 19,700 to 20,000 region, and you can translate that across to the spot prices as well by just jumping on over here and looking at where our previous highs came in there and saying 19,700 or so as well, because if we cast our minds back, we actually saw that the contangled nature of the CMEs with their premium really did diminish there at that top. I'd also be keeping an eye out for that indeed same concept there with any premium on the CMEs should we go up towards those highs yet again. Looking over towards this chart then, we can see that we of course don't have that gap because it's the spot prices, but we see the CME, the median line of the Bollinger Band coming in there at 18,600. Now that's going to be your short-term discount prices if you want to BTFD. If you're not into BTFing Ds, then you want to be keeping an eye out on this 18,000 area like we spoke about with the CME charts here, and what that continuation would look like, or indeed the reversal then back up the way towards where we are now. Of course, if we actually don't drop down and start to fill in those gaps, then what we're looking at, of course, is the same sort of scenario that we saw back there at 9,000 to 10,000, where we had a gap on the charts and it really just put in a period where we were able to reset some oscillators, recapture some upward momentum, and actually put in what was then ultimately higher lows, and a fairly significant one that came in with a degree of historical significance to be able to look forward to in the future. And we could obviously do that again in this sense as well if you saw follow through towards the upside without taking out the gap. That's what you would call a professional gap, and the idea being there that obviously with any retraces back down towards that zone, that you're looking for larger accounts to try and capture that misplaced enthusiasm towards the downside in order to fulfill their own needs in the market. And that's what can happen, and that's what professional gap means if you're interested. But of course then, if we don't see either of those two scenarios working out, then we're consolidating this area, and eyeballing on a triangle is rather easy. The same scenarios actually are quite relevant when we look over towards the Ethereum prices as well, and the price charts then with those numbers coming there at $620, of course, then towards the downside 540, and if we actually take out 518, then the real eye looking area is going to be down towards this 520 or the 500 and then 420 area. Bearing in mind with the current layout of the Bollinger Bands and whatnot there, that it does actually, when you have a tightening of these things, then of course the ultimate spring out can of course result in movements which look like this in the charts, and of course then that's when you'd be able to identify an easy quick pullback towards the towards a significant area, most likely one of the Fibonacci zones if you placed it in correctly. Now of course if we do look towards the top side, that 600 area is very, very, very key for our psychological areas. We'll also really, if you were to look back at the Ethereum section of the video, you know that 618 Fibonacci retracement point, and the golden pocket comes in there, worth bearing in mind if we push on past that zone, about the significance of the 600 area. Looking up towards the top side, we're really going to have to then start adding on chunks of 5% to really start feeling good about the stair step
step in action towards the top side, or else of course those 5% movements towards the top side rapidly become 10% movements towards the downside. Looking over here towards Link versus, well, neither of those two, as you can see, not good, but against the dollar, and as you can see, not so bad here on the weekly time frame as we maintain this overall upward structure. And it really does boil down to whether or not we're going to be able to come in and challenge the $16 area again and look towards moving past our previous highs and then continuing towards the top side, hopefully tracing any Bollinger Band up the way as we have done so far. Are we looking at this as being like a channel? Well, we are, because of course, a quick reminder, I've got the chart on log. I should probably extend this thing over here so that it's visible on the screen whether I have log or auto. We'll do that before the next episode. Put it back onto linear. We're looking at an ascending broadening type wedge. Of course, that could obviously be conceivably a continuation pattern for any downward movement here, but we've also seen these things work in so many different ways in the past. For instance, as well, the Bitcoin price action with the sort of March to August run was in an ascending broadening wedge, and of course we didn't find that continuation in terms of downward movement, and in fact breached past the 10k area towards the top side, and that's kind of what would be looking to happen in here in around about 16 if we can do it. And of course we'll have to keep an eye on how anything like that pans out. Now, movements towards the downside are going to be really important. Looking down, not necessarily from the 1280s down to $12 area itself, but from $12 down to $11. Anything going down below that, you're obviously starting to get into that sort of the stinky durian fruit area, where of course things start to stink, but of course they can become rather sweet again if we do breach back towards the top side. But I'd be looking at that 1030 area as being an Alamo for any sort of out of the money position to try and breach it back into the money position over the next wee while. As we zoom in here on Tezos to wrap up the show, you can see that the price is currently in at $2.22. That is a number that we have spoken about quite a lot of times. You probably heard me say a lot of times, and that's where we find ourselves right now. It's of no great surprise, but of course is of some consequence. As we zoom in here, prices were being covered up by the charts. You can see we have this drop off, and we know that this area between 2222 up towards 252 are going to be the real key areas for taking us up the way. Of course, we want to see things move organically, and that's going to involve moving past 260, where we could find, of course, a lot of profit taken where our previous highs were. And as well, let's bear in mind that our wicks actually do previously carry us up towards that 280 area. As I just moved the mouse over and see it's up there at $3 actually, in fact, with this movement. So we're going to find a lot of course questions being asked in those areas, as we like to talk about on the show. Let's see if we can kind of at least trace this towards the top side if that happens. First things first, can we make it past this downward sloping basis line there, where we have the downward sloping lackluster 20 period EMA? Can we move towards the top side? We'll have to see if that's the case. If not, of course, we're going to just expand out with the potential for lower lows coming in. As we can see, if we were to go and try and attempt that right now, it'd be moving outside that zone. I would expect a retracement back into it, but it wouldn't be too long before you'd have got back down to that area where you could breach that $2 down to 180 zone. That would be nightmare material. Right now, of course, we do have the overall positive trend to look at in terms of this chunk. Looking back the way, big movement down the way, but if you keep on doing that story of bringing back in historical price action, sure, we're on an upward trend, and this just represents a higher low. Came in with this bullish divergence. We could move towards the top side. The key areas for us are going to be whether or not we see ourselves maintaining 222 over the next wee while, with a view towards 252, 272, or of course, if we go down below $2 into 192 and 182, then I would think about things differently. And the siren kicks off there at the very end to say, well, cool, I am coming to the end of my show. I'm going to just check in again one time with the chat here and see how you're all getting along. I'm sure it's like burning houses. Cool. So let me just zoom back up a wee bit there and see, since the last time we were talking about quotes. Oh, I sold my Bitcoin today. I won't say I'm hoping it drops because I had my luck with this thing will rocket. Well, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. It's nice to see that you're sharing your positions with folk. Obviously, I don't do that here in the show personally because I think it's bad ethics. But you're all more than welcome to talk to each other about your positions. Okay. Obviously, don't be a tip taker, don't be a tip giver, and all that sort of chat like we talk about, and avoid FOMO and everything else. But
feel free to talk to each other about stuff like that. It's not a problem at all. Hey Mickey, good to see you. Hey Rocky, good to see you. Nightbot jumped in, says hey there Mickey, so at least I don't feel so bad if I haven't left you hanging for a wee while. No, right, Impetus says, I see symmetrical consolidation triangle forming. I am betting with the trend. I wonder what time frame you're looking at there, but of course symmetrical triangle, consolidation triangle forming, and you're saying TAS there that you're trading with the trend. Well, to everybody else who's kind of curious as to what that means, if you're like one of the new folk out there trading and you're reading the chat as it goes along at the side of the screen, what he's saying there is that he's betting with the prior trend, which means he's betting up. And a consolidation like symmetrical triangle is kind of the 50-50, as Eric Crown likes to call them, the equal opportunities triangle. This is a great name for it. That's 9 out of 10. He's not the only one in the world that calls them that, but I'll give him the credit in it nevertheless. That's 9 out of 10, a very good call, especially now KDoc is out, so we're all still poking KDoc with the FOMO. The FOMO prod there. Only thing is, I don't believe in 20k Bitcoin, so I might sell my bags at 19,550 and then crash this Ponzi. Oh, cool. Somebody says this Ponzi. It's been a while since I've heard people talk about things as being Ponzi's. Yearn Finance introduced an ecosystem index token, Yeti. Don't know if it will work or not, but DeFi is still growing and it only has 30k supply. There you go. Well, interesting stuff there yet again as well. I wonder. What under? I'm hodl till I'm earn lol, says KDoc earlier on. Cool, on Bigfoot jokes, all jokes aside, I'm long and short, take profit at sensible levels. Okay, cool. Yeti, yeah, I know, yeah. The Sasquatch token. Do you believe in the Yeti? Well, Yearn Finance have done quite good with their offerings. They're obviously going on a real scarcity basis, you know. It's a little bit. It's good. I don't know, but you know, when Bitcoin started, 21 million was like, oh, that's a small number. Now Yearn Finance are coming along like, how are we going to make this? How are we going to do this? 30,000. That's it. All almost infinitely divisible, of course. Yeah, I'm hodl till I earn lol. I'm just trying to get enough crypto to swim in, says RT Pile. Yeah, of course. Everybody wants to do the whole Scrooge McDuck dive into their crypto coins, right? Scrooge McDuck. Yeah, that's the right one. Have I got that the right one? Is that the right one? Was it Scrooge McDuck or is it the other? Was it the other one? Anyway. A few crypto finnins dotted about the garden would be nice, says Trace1. You'll be like a duck in crypto this time next year, RE. Yes, there we go, that's it. And away we got the Siren song. Trace1, I'm working on it, hasn't taken too long. Hola, whole cheekies, says Cybersaurus. Whole cheekies, that's right, that's Spanish. Hola chicas, hola cheekies, whole cheekies. I wonder what language that actually is. Nice to have you here, Cybersaurus. If you want to hit that subscribe button, then if your YouTube subscribes are public, it'll come up on screen and you'll get a wee sort of laugh out of it. But this takes us to the end of the show. I hope everybody has had a good time here this evening. I'll be back again tomorrow with some more technical analysis, and I'll try and take the brakes off a little bit with regards to how much detail I give. And then by the time we get into Friday, I'll just kind of let myself do the usual sort of in-depth technical analysis I've been doing the last wee while for the weekend. You know, whether that's complicated or not, it's going to be the stuff that goes for a few days and all that sort of stuff. And then it invites more of this discussion and everything else. But for now, we can do, oh my goodness, I'm never going to learn, am I? I need to go back to the 15-minute time frame, put it on auto so everybody can see what the crack is. God. And then go over to like Bitcoin or something. Gosh. Right. Yeah, as you can see, by the way, yet again, like breaches of that, breach there, you know, handy for scalping. If anything, crypto has taught me patience. Oh my goodness. What? That's amazing. That's amazing because for most people it teaches them pain and suffering and that, and the patience sort of thing is like a lesson that they don't realize ever FOMO was strong in everybody. But you've learned patience from crypto then. Well done. That's cool. Nice one. See you later, Kevin. Thanks very much. And K-Doc as well. Cheers again for the live to Rocky and the spanner. Do you want to have a spanner as well? I mean, we're going to have more people have spanners. I'm not too sure if I want to unleash the K-Doc on the unsuspecting public. I wonder what you would get up to if you had a spanner beside your name. But of course, that is something that we will be needing more of over time as these average concurrent viewer numbers go from being 14 up to 14 billion, and that's what the future holds for us all. Yeah, thanks chaps, thanks Tradespawn, thanks RT, thanks Cybersaurus, thanks K-Doc, thanks Kevin K King, thanks Tass, I hope all of your Oompa clan are doing really well. Of course, tell them to come and check out the old Rocky Outcrop channel. Thanks Mickey for tuning in. Thanks goes to who else did we have here? Peter Hewer, it was great to have you on the show here as well. Horn Hunter, fantastic to see you again this evening. And I've missed out other people like Zoner, Brandon, 3000 Trin, whoever else. If I've missed anybody else out there, then I'm sorry. And of course as well, big Rocky Outcrop thank you to Nightbot for coming in and chatting. I don't know if Nightbot's done too much. Let me know what you think as well in any messages or whatever, if you think Nightbot does too much of the old chatting. Drew's Tech, thanks so much for joining us. Everybody, you're welcome to do a few things. By the way, if you're still here and you're interested, if you hit exclamation mark, if you hit the like button and you want me to say thanks for hitting the like button anytime during the show, then you can say exclamation mark liked, and Nightbot will come back and tell me to give you a shout out, right? I'm going to have to try and make this a bit better so that I definitely see the chat, but whatever. And yeah, cool, whatever. So you can do all sorts of stuff. Got Nightbot in here now, and I'll be adding more stuff to it. Shall we see if quote works yet? Quote probably doesn't. Anyway, after this I'll say cheerio. Oh, look at that, I put up a big blocker on top of the chart. My live stream skills are missing. There's no quotes added, right? I need to add some quotes. I don't know how that didn't work. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to head off. See you next time. I'll be back again tomorrow, hopefully at the same sort of reasonable time that I managed to make it through today, before 8 o'clock. I've been trying to reel back a little bit on the times so I can get into, as I can do them earlier. Cool, nice one. Catch you later. Thanks so much for joining me. Really do appreciate it. I'll leave up the chat here on the screen as I go sort of to the full screen, end screen effort here, and put on the drawings again so we can get those big fat writing up there and people can see what we have for the targets. Oh, undo. Where's my big old box of text? Oh, because I'm on the 15-minute time frame, of course. Right, let's stick it somewhere. Visible? I'm pretty bad at doing this, huh? Turns out. I want to have it on 15-minute time frame and have the box visible, if that's possible. Maybe I'm asking too much. The Bollinger Bands make it pretty hard to see anything, don't they? Right. I'm getting there. I'm gonna put the other screen on as well so that it's full screen. It doesn't look so stupid on the stream here in a second. Right. Yeah, that's kind of visible enough. Right, cool. Right, nice one. Excellent. Excellent. So I'll just jump over to the other screen. So that's better layout. Final scene, is it? I'll call it final scene. Yeah. Then there we have the number, the current price. You can see the chat. You can see my thingy, and I'll just change this date on this thing so that people can see it's tomorrow. Where are you? Tuesday. Yes. Cool. Right. Thank you so much to everybody for tuning in. I'll catch you next time.